You're listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.
This episode,
we'll give you some background on our FAB Fact.
We're seeing a spot of slashing and slicing in the Randomiser.
And it's all aboard the Paradox for this week's interview with David Holt.
All of that stuff we previously mentioned is coming up on Pod 96
of the Gerry Anderson podcast.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's get started. Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson and Richard James.
Hello, this is Captain Thrice speaking, and you're listening to the Gerry Anderson Podcast. Pay attention.
A special guest.
Yeah, we'll better pay attention, as Captain Thrice said.
Absolutely, yeah. How lovely to hear from you. Thank you for popping in, Captain Thrice, from Lavender Castle.
Must have been live from the Paradox,
I
suppose.
Yeah. Oh, here we are for Pod 96 of the Gerry Anderson Podcast. We've made it this far.
Yeah. We're closing in on Pod 100 so fast, it's quite terrifying.
Yeah.
I know, can you believe it? That's like 2 years of podcasting.
I suppose it must be. That's frightening.
4 weeks short of 2 years of podcasting.
That's right. Crikey. Well, we thought we gave ourselves 2 weeks, didn't we?
Yeah.
We thought we won't be speaking to each other after 2 weeks. Sure.
I know, and it's become 2 years, and maybe it'll become 2 decades. Anyway,
crikey.
This is the first of the 2 years of those 2 decades of the Gerry Anderson Podcast, where we talk about all things Gerry Anderson for between 60 and 90 minutes every week. And you're listening to that bloke over there,
Richard James, and that bloke over there,
Jamie Lionel Anderson.
Yes, that's very good. Yeah, so we're here with all the usual stuff. In just a few moments' time, of course, we'll have Jamie's favourite feature, FAB Facts, but also we'll be revisiting my favourite feature, Plot of Peril, a little later on, because I did set you a little something last week that I shall remind you of. We've also got Chris Dale's fantastic randomiser coming up a little bit later. We've got some emails, because people have been emailing us on podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, reading out a couple of tweets as well, because people have been hashtagging us on Twitter, Gerry Anderson, and they've been tagging you, I'm Jamie Anderson, or me, Richard N. James, and also we'll be heading over to our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, to see what people have been up to there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
That was quite an astonishing intro, although you did say Gerry Anderson and not Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Can I do it again?
No, too late now. Sorry, it's we can't edit this, unfortunately.
Also, of course, we've got the first in I think it's a duo of interviews with David Holt. Is that right, Jamie?
You're right, and that is the exact reason that we had Captain Thrice introducing us, because he voiced Captain Thrice and Sproggle and a number of guest characters in the 1999 Gerry Anderson series, Lavender Castle.
Ah, how lovely. And I know there are some fans of Lavender Castle out there who'll be thrilled to hear that.
At least 1 or possibly 2, I think.
Yeah,
yes. Exactly. I think there are quite a few episodes of Lavender Castle illegally uploaded to YouTube, by the way, in case you haven't seen them. I mean, nothing to do with us currently. We're trying to
rectify that.
Sort out some bits and pieces of that, but it's a very long and difficult road. Anyway, we're going to hear all about Lavender Castle and also David Holt's general enjoyment of all things Anderson a little bit later on in this pod.
Well,
that's 96.
How exciting.
Can we go straight to a fab fact, Richard? Because I have a feeling it's going to be really fab this week.
That's great. Now, while you're explaining to the listeners exactly what Fab Facts is, I'm going to let my cat out again. Do you remember we had this last week? I know. It's because I'm doing this in my bedroom, and my cat at the moment, because we just moved house, is hanging out in our bedroom. But of course, the minute I'm in here, she wants to go out. So I've now got to go and just open the door and let her out. So you explain all about Fab Facts, and I'll be back in a minute.
Okay, here we go with Fab Facts.
Now, time for this week's Fab Facts.
Right, while Richard lets out his cat, listeners, you probably will already know how this goes. I've got a book of Fab Facts. I flip through the book, Richard shouts Fab at a random point, and I will stop flipping at that point, and hopefully on that page will be a fact which is rather fab. And that's how this goes.
Was that perfect timing?
It was perfect timing. Welcome back.
Well, she did that annoying thing where I opened the door for her and she didn't want to go out. Well, she's gone. It's fine.
Cats are so selfish.
Aren't they? No.
They're rude.
Who do
They're
they
so
think they
rude. Well, cats, I suppose. Anyway, maybe we'll end up with a cat fact this week.
Oh, that'll be fun.
Yeah, probably not, though. Anyway, here's the book, Richard. I've explained the rules.
Fine.
Here we go.
Yep. Fab!
Ooh, it was a bit skippy there, so we've ended up later than I expected.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's fine. We're in the 70s, sort of.
Great. I'll get the flares out.
This is quite interesting, and this is also going to give Podsterons something to do after this podcast. They can go and investigate this fact.
Ah, that is useful.
Ah, there you go. So, lots of the kind of the model effects stuff from Space 1999, UFO, and even into Infinity were shot as plates.
Oh,
They
yeah.
were put in the background of things, of other model shots, or reused. Sometimes they were reused outside of the shows they were shot for.
Ah,
So many of those model effects shots have ended up with a company called World Backgrounds.
oh really?
And what an exciting name.
Yeah, isn't it? Apart from the backgrounds bit.
Backgrounds.
It's a bit of a come down, really. That second half of that phrase. Yeah.
Intergalactic
Backgrounds.
backgrounds.
Yeah.
Anyway, World Backgrounds are a source of stock footage for other productions. Mm-hmm. And so 1999's footage, plus UFO and Into Infinity, ended up being seen all over the place in other series.
Ah,
Those series include other cult sci-fi shows like Doctor Who,
Of course,
would you believe?
yeah.
Nightmare of Eden and The Leisure Hive in particular.
great.
The Tomorrow People
Oh, yeah.
and Wonder Woman. But not just sci-fi, there are also comedy shows like The Two Ronnies,
Yes.
and even these shots made appearances in 10 music videos, including Fuzzbox's Calling International Rescue.
Ah, I remember it well. How funny.
Beyond the small screen, they also appeared in films. Everything from Italian sci-fi to American horror and even a softcore porno,
What?
which starred UFO and Space 1999 guest
What?
actor Barry Stokes.
Hang on, is that what you're suggesting Podsterons go and research after you've...
That's not the bit in particular. No. Anyway, many of those clips that have been digitised by World Backgrounds
Yeah.
were actually alternate or unused takes. So things that didn't even make it into the original shows.
Okay.
Some of those have been used on network Space 1999 sets. But if you want to look for them yourself, you can go onto the internet.
Oh, here we go.
I don't know if you know of this.
I've heard of it, yes.
Yeah, it's a place where you can find things.
Quite important at the moment, isn't it? Coming into its own, really, isn't it?
Quite busy at the minute,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, people are just discovering it. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you go to worldbackgrounds.mrfootage.com.
I know him well, yes.
That's worldbackgrounds.mrfootage.com.
Yeah.
And search space or moon or UFO or anything like that, you will find those Space 1999 UFO and Into Infinity backgrounds.
Great.
Some of that footage is clearly marked where it's come from, like, you know, UFO or Space 1999, but most of it has kind of vague, descriptive names. Mm-hmm. Like this one, for example. Old riverboat explodes and erupts into flames on wide river or lake, or could even be sea.
From UFO, of course. We all
Of
remember
course.
that one.
So go and look up that particular shot.
How interesting.
But yeah, have fun. Let us know what you find. If you find anything particularly exciting, do send us an email with a link to that particular clip to podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk, and we can describe it with words.
Yeah, well, that's
in
lovely.
a future podcast.
Or even better, of course, we could get Mr. Footage on as an interviewee for a future podcast, couldn't we?
Dear old Mr. Footage, yeah. Only if Mrs. Footage allows him out,
obviously.
though.
That is interesting. We often talk, don't we, about various props from various series turning up in other shows. First time we've actually talked about backgrounds turning up in other shows. You wouldn't think of that, would you? Do the artists still get some sort of credit, or I suppose they're just... Is it a buyout deal? I wonder how that works.
I mean, model effects people are not like you thespians, you see. They don't get any extra fees when things are shown and when their faces... Once they've done their work, that's it. It's bought out. So, yeah, those backgrounds are bought out forever.
Yeah, interesting.
There you go. So do pop along to worldbackgrounds.mrfootage.com, search for space, moon, UFO or similar terms, and see what you can find.
Wonderful.
And that is the end of this week's Background Fact!
Ah, there we are. Great. Wow. Very interesting. I wonder if I were to paint a background for when we do our next Fab Live, whether that might make its way onto worldbackgrounds.mrfootage.com.
What sort of thing are you thinking of painting?
Oh, some fantastic starscape, I would think, with a swirling black hole.
We're
Right
very
where
much
your
in
face
need
should
of
be.
those. Oh, all right, rude.
Anyway,
Thanks.
and now, lots of people have been getting in touch with us via email at podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. For example, like Ian Thompson, who said, "Hi, Jamie and Richard. He said, as I'm not on social media, I thought I would respond to your request last week for some Anderson gifs. So here we go," he says. Now, he's got a gift that he sent to us of John waking up from Thunderbirds and saying, "Wow, I dreamt there was an episode of the Gerry Anderson podcast where Richard didn't mention he was in Space Precinct. Ah, but it was only a dream." No offence, Richard. Yeah, thank you. He says, "I do smile and shake my head whenever I hear you mention it in the episode." Well, listen, it's not me that brings it up, Ian.
No, to be fair, Richard never says anything about it. It's normally me.
Exactly.
Ruining things.
Or even our listeners, of course. For example, like Andrew Potts, who doesn't mention Space Precinct, but says, "Dear Jamie and Richard, thank you for reading my email on Pod 93, he said. "It was a very good answer to the Terrorhawk Big Finish question. Listening to the podcast has always brightened my week, especially during the coronavirus crisis." Well, thank you, Andrew. That's what we're all hoping for. "I have thought of an idea for your YouTube channel," he continues, "as a weekly Gerry Anderson video quiz in which viewers answer 5 or 10 questions on Gerry Anderson TV episodes. I'd also like to know if there are any plans for an interview with Mystery Science Theatre 3000 creator Joel Hodgson in the not-too-distant future. Yours faithfully, Andrew Potts." So a couple of ideas there. Gerry Anderson quiz. Sounds fun.
I think our Podsterons are doing their own quizzes right now, isn't that right?
They are over on their Facebook group. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you can pop along and do that. You don't need us to do that.
No.
Facebook.com/groups/Podsterons.
That's right. And have you had any contact with Joel Hodgson from Mystery Science Theatre 3000?
No contact with Joel, although we know that he is a fan and there's influenced a lot of Mystery Science Theatre 3000.
Yeah.
So maybe for a future interview, it's just getting hold of these people.
Yeah, of course it is.
Because sometimes, you tweet them and they get hundreds of tweets a day
Yeah.
and you're easily missed. Or you email them and they get thousands of emails a week
Yes.
and it gets missed. Or they've got an agent and you email the agent and the agent goes, "Excuse me, what is the fee for this podcast interview?" And you say,
Fee?
"Oh, there isn't
Well.
one." That's right. And then they go, "Goodbye."
Yes.
So, we had an agent who asked for a fee recently for a potential podcast guest.
Right.
And do you know how many figures of this fee they were asking for?
How many figures? I dread to think. Go on.
It was a 5-figure sum
Was it?
to appear as a podcast interview.
You said, we haven't got that sort of money. It all goes to Richard James. Is that what you said?
That's exactly what I
Yes.
said. That'll seriously dent the Richard James Cake Fund.
It certainly would, yeah.
And we haven't yet managed to buy a cake
I was
with
going to
that.
say, that's come as a surprise to me. Talking on Twitter, Ride Theory got in touch with us and hashtagged us Gerry Anderson Podcast. He says, "Now that the Randomiser podcast logo shows an image of the actual gadget, I'm tempted to build a working model with a Raspberry Pi and a pop-up screen. Well, Ride Theory, whoever you may be, we'd love to see that, wouldn't we?"
Yes, yeah. Can you imagine if Chris had an Chris obviously does have an
course he
actual
does, yes.
randomiser, but if he had an actual Podsteron built randomiser,
Yeah.
I was going to say a fandomiser then. That's a different podcast entirely.
Oh, that could work.
Yeah, maybe there's a new segment in the
I think
making
you might
there.
be right. Yeah, so just a reminder that, yes, Chris Dale's Randomiser now does have its own standalone podcast that you can find via the Gerry Anderson website, I would think, and searching on various providers.
Just go to your...
Yeah.
Thank you for shaking your head there, Ernie. If you go to your podcast listening app of choice and search for Gerry Anderson Randomiser,
Yeah.
and that's Randomiser with the English spelling,
Of course.
with an S and not
Yeah,
a Z,
yeah.
for the Iser, then you'll find it there. Do subscribe, and it's restarting the randomizers from the very beginning. The first 6 episodes are already up at the time of recording.
Brilliant.
And you'll have a new one every Sunday. A great opportunity to go and watch something Anderson and get Chris's unique insights.
Great. And he'll be popping up a little bit later with more of those unique
He will
insights too.
Yeah, with his marvellous unique insights.
Yes.
Okay, while we wait for that,
Yeah.
should we pass the time with some Gerry Anderson news?
Oh, I've got nothing better to do. Yeah, why not?
Then here is the Gerry Anderson news. Gerry Anderson news is here,
Yes.
which Richard heralds by saying,
Newsy news, news, news.
and that's exactly what we wanted. Thank you very much, Richard.
Welcome.
Today, Monday the 13th of April, the
Yeah.
day of release, if you're listening today. If you're not, hello, future listener. But if you are listening today, the 13th of April 2020, it is the last day of the Gerry Anderson Store's big Easter sale.
Oh.
There is 20% off everything we hold in stock, Everything we hold in stock is shippable right now, despite the COVID-19 situation.
Great.
So if you buy stuff today, it'll be shipped tomorrow or Wednesday, because today is Easter bank holiday, isn't it?
Yeah,
Easter Monday?
It is, yeah, Easter Monday.
Yes, happy Easter, if that's your bag.
Yeah.
Your Easter
Happy
bag.
St. Chocolate's Day, if it isn't.
Happy St. Chocolate's Day if it isn't. Perfect, exactly that. So yes, do pop along. And there's also a daily deal, which you can find in the Easter sale drop-down menu, which is a deep discount on a special in-stock item. I have a strange feeling it might be the Supercars soundtrack CD.
Oh, come on.
I think. So go and grab that while you can. Hope you get what you wanted. And if not any problems, Tim and Louise, despite it being a bank holiday Monday, are on hand to help you with any needs you may have.
Great.
If you've joined our Patreon recently, the Anderson Insiders Patreon, thank you very much.
Yes.
Many of you have.
Yes.
It's been great to see you along there. We've been posting all sorts of goodies that we wouldn't normally be making available elsewhere.
Yeah.
Of course, as we've mentioned, Richard, or Ernie, sorry, he's squeaking now.
Oh, he's
all
getting
the free
excited.
stuff, he's getting excited about Anderson Insiders. He'll be joining later on. But all the usual free stuff that we put out is still free and
Yes.
is unchanged.
Nothing changes.
Anderson Insiders is just some extra stuff if you'd like some extra stuff and are able to become a patron there. No pressure from us. We know it's not a great time with lots of people.
Yeah.
And also, even if you don't want to join now but you join later, all the stuff that's been posted until now will still be available then. So,
Yeah, great.
Just hold off until the world becomes a bit more normal again. That's no
Yes.
problem at all.
Yes.
If you would like half an hour of Terrorhawk's music insights, then you can pop along to the Gerry Anderson store and pick up an interview with Richard Harvey.
Oh, lovely.
It's a digital download about his early music career, how he got involved with Terrorhawks, and the process of writing the music, including a story about the Terrorhawks orchestral recording
Oh, yeah.
and Dad's reaction to it, which is quite fun.
Right, okay.
So that's rather nice.
Also wrote, did he not, the Firestorm theme?
He did write the Firestorm theme, the Firestorm theme,
As it's
I
now
was going to say there, yes, which is available to download on all music providers of your choice, like Amazon and Spotify.
Great.
So yes, pop along and listen to that. Yes, he's such a lovely chap, and yeah, he played various bits of the Firestorm theme. A lot of it was orchestral and recorded all over the world.
Yeah.
Strings and brass.
Yeah.
I think the brass was recorded at Abbey Road.
Amazing.
All that sort of stuff. Anyway, yes, Richard's fascinating and lovely, but he really rocked out when he was writing the Firestorm theme and playing along. So yes, go and grab that. It's just 99p. So,
Great. Yeah. Bargain.
Quick fun download.
Yeah.
And also, lots of you have been watching our Thunderbirds Legends series, which has been doing rather well over on YouTube. Now keep an eye on the YouTube channel. More is on the way.
Excellent. Yes, been making a few waves, that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has done. And we've been doing some recording, new narration recording for that with a new narrator.
Ooh.
And I don't want to say too much more, but
really? Go on.
It's really lovely. I was listening to it yesterday, and it's just
Nice.
it's got just such a great feel about it, and it's going to fill in some gaps in your Thunderbirds canon knowledge.
So explain a
And
little
yes,
more
I did
about...
use the C word.
Yeah, right, yes, exactly. Thunderbirds Legends, then. So these are sort of what prequel stories, are they? Are they set
They
up
are indeed,
for
yeah.
what we know?
It's filling in the prequel type information that didn't come in the original series,
Yeah.
but was put into various comics at various stages.
Okay, so all based on Gerry's original ideas and concepts, I suppose.
Well, certainly the Century 21 team's ideas,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So Alan Fennell, who was the editor of TV 21,
Yeah.
was responsible for kind of filling in a lot of these gaps and commissioning the stories and writing many of them, including the complete Thunderbird story, which is in the 90s comics, which is what we use for the first 3 episodes of Thunderbirds Legends,
Yeah.
which tell the story about Jeff Tracy, how he came to be an astronaut, how he came to make all his money, what happened to his wife, Lucille,
Okay.
which is never really mentioned in the show, but
right.
now we know thanks to Thunderbirds Legends.
Yeah.
And then how Tracy Island was built, how the craft were built, etc., etc., etc.
Wow, so that's it. Final word. All this is now canon. It happened. This is the official story, is it?
Well, the only problem is that this is set in 2026
Yeah.
because in Alan's world,
Yeah.
Thunderbirds was set in 2026, but lots of people would argue that Thunderbirds is set in 2065.
Okay.
So the timeline might not work if you're in the
Yeah.
2065 camp, but just add a few years on.
Yeah.
Just add 39 onto the any numbers mentioned in Thunderbirds Legends and you'll be there.
Exactly. Perfect.
Done.
Yep.
Easy.
That's right.
I think that's about it. You did a Space Precinct watch-along and a comment-along on the YouTube channel the other night, didn't you?
Yeah, well, again, for free, Jamie, on the Gerry Anderson YouTube channel. You've been screening both episodes of Fire Within, a two-parter from Space Precinct. So, yes, I popped along for the second episode, which premiered just yesterday at 6:30. But it's still up there for you all to see. You can even, I think there's a little button to press on the right-hand side where you can see the show chat. In other words, the things that we were saying as we were watching. So I was joined by some watchers there, and I gave a few insights and memories from my time. Don't like to talk about it, as you know, on Space Precinct. But
I had
yes.
to twist your arm to do that, to be fair.
But yes, good fun. And do remember, if you are a Space Precinct fan, or as a couple of people who joined me the other night to watch it are newcomers to the series, you can buy the whole darn thing on DVD at the Gerry Anderson store. And, I'm slightly biased, but it is worth a watch.
Of course. Well, we saw people who were coming to it the first time really enjoying it. So that was really lovely.
Yeah.
There you go. All sorts of free stuff to keep you busy during this crazy time.
Yep.
That's it from me, Richard, unless you have any particular other news yourself.
I have no other news myself.
Then that is the end of this week's Gerry Anderson News.
That was the... Oh, crikey. Oh, dear. I won't try that again in a hurry.
No, that was great.
Well, I hadn't warmed up, you see. So there we are. Yes, that's the Gerry Anderson News. You're listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Now, here's a great thing you can do for us. Whichever platform you're listening to us on, whether that be Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Podchaser, Podbean, Podbay, Stitcher, YouTube, even for now, but maybe not for much longer. Do leave us a review and a rating.
Just a rating, or a review, or a rating, or a rating, or all of them.
Let us know how much you're enjoying the podcast, and do hit the share button to share it with all your friends so they can get to hear us too. And don't forget to follow us or subscribe so that you get a notification every time a new episode drops.
Yes, and they drop regularly.
They do. Now, I'm going to go back to Twitter because Rick got in touch from the Unmutual website. We were talking last time about Jane Merrow. So Rick says, to answer your question, Jamie, the lovely Jane Merrow was in the Prisoner episode a schizoid man as Alison. A rarity in that her character had a name as well as a number, and she was also in 3 episodes of Danger Man. She hasn't, as we thought, attended an ITC event, but a McGowan night at Elstree in 2018, and that's from Rick at the Unmutual. So thanks for putting us straight there, Rick. Also,
cheers, Rick.
Spyros got in touch to say, Dear Richard, brackets Officer Orion and Jamie. See, now, you see, I didn't bring it up. Did I? No,
it's always the Podsterons or me. Richard never says it.
Further to previous communications requesting a die-cast model of a Space Precinct cruiser being produced, and inferences made that you would like to have it done, I was wondering, how further along are you with that? And I'd also like to suggest something a bit more to go with the cruiser. If it would not be incredibly a lot more expensive, how about making the doors open and also producing an articulated figure of Officer Orion who could sit in the cruiser or stand beside it? Thanks for listening and stay safe. Yeah, SPA. Well, what do we think? How far along the road are we with producing the die-cast model of a Space Precinct cruiser?
So the die-cast model has been paused indefinitely because, unfortunately, to make it viable, we would have to manufacture in China. And obviously because of the global situation, I don't know if you've heard about what's going on, Richard, but there's a bit of a global situation happening.
It may have impinged upon my world somewhat.
Yeah. Well, not to worry. I'm sure it'll be all fine soon. But for now, that's all on hold, along with a number of other things, which is rather frustrating.
Yeah.
In terms of making it articulated in any way,
and an Officer Orion toy and all that.
It's a huge extra round of expense. There's tooling and machining costs and all sorts of stuff, and that's just not viable for what we're doing, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, you can pick up the odd Officer Orion toy on eBay, I hasten to add. And
odd being the operative word.
Oh, yes, very odd. Talking of odd, Gary Hodgkinson very kindly sent me his Officer Orion toy that he found, still in its on card, as it were, with a podly body. So a little pot belly, a bit of a paunch, an orange head. So that's something I've collected. So thank you for that, Gary. Did that some time ago. A few more messages while we're here, Jamie.
Oh, please do. I'd love to hear them.
Okay, Alan Porter, for example. Now, over on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/Podsterons, he's in a bit of a quandary, is Alan. Wonders if we could help him out. Okay, fellow Podsterons, he says, I need your input on an important topic of discussion between my wife and I. I hang my 100-plus collection of T-shirts in alphabetical order based on the subject matter. Yes, I'm that much of a geek, he says. But what to do with my Anderson-themed shirts? Do I hang them with the A shirts to keep all the Anderson stuff together, or maybe under C for Century 21 or S for Supermarionation? Or, he says, should I hang them by show or subject? Case in point, the SPV shirt that I wore today that sparked the discussion. He says, what do you think? A for Anderson, C for Captain Scarlet, or S for SPV and Spectrum? I mean, that's a difficult quandary, isn't it?
Well, I've got a very good answer.
Oh, yeah?
Obviously, you put them under A for Anderson, and then within the A category,
Wow.
you then rank them chronologically.
You're sub-cataloguing. I mean,
Yeah.
that's going deep, isn't it?
So then we know that these t-shirts will always be at the far left of the rack, assuming you're going left to right,
Yeah.
A to Z.
Yeah.
And then you can go via, if there was a Twizzle t-shirt, which I doubt there is, that can go, at the beginning of the Anderson catalogue, right through to, well, if you happen to have a Firestorm Kickstarter backers t-shirt, that will go at the end of the Anderson
I see.
A section.
There you
see
go.
what I mean?
All right, Alan. Jamie has
Yeah.
spoken.
If you could send us photographic proof, Alan, that you've done that, I will then officially approve this categorisation, and perhaps we can do a certificate or something.
Yeah.
We'll get that over to you.
Oh, that would be nice. That's a good idea. And just a couple more before we head on into this week's interview. Kevin Trott says, as soon as the lockdown is over, I'm flying my newly finished Eagle somewhere. Anyone else want a lift? Yeah, that would be good, wouldn't it? I think we all need to get out and about as soon as we can, when it's safe to do so, of course.
Absolutely.
And finally, for now, Morty Vicker enjoyed our interview, or rather your interview, with... is that... Hello? Yeah. Do you want to get that?
Yeah.
That's just my agent.
Yes.
They've heard about the case
It's your
fund,
agent as
and
well
they want
now.
10%.
Hello, Mother. I'm currently recording the podcast with Richard. It's fine. You don't have to whisper. It's fine. Was there anything crucial or anything that I can share with our listeners, since this is being recorded? No, nothing I can share.
Oh.
Okay, top secret. Right, I'll call you back shortly. All right, bye. Right. Top secret #MummyA business, obviously.
Well, we can only but guess.
Yeah, I'll let you know later on.
Fantastic.
WhatsApp. Anyway, sorry, you had another email.
Yes,
there,
Morty
or a
Vicker, who
message.
enjoyed your interview with Maurice Bright in the last podcast from Elstree Studios. He says he was quite a card. Lovely interview and so heartwarming to hear Maurice's adoring description of meeting Gerry. The breadth and variety of the interviews Richard and Jamie bring to us each week, free, gratis, and for nothing, he says, is nothing short of astonishing. With the 100 in sight, it's well worth stopping to appreciate what all this means to us. Well, thank you very much, Morty. That's very, very kind. Yeah, we do our best to bring you stuff every week. Everything from the podcast to new videos over on YouTube to free audio adventures, all sorts of stuff to keep you busy and entertained throughout this rather difficult time.
Yes, absolutely. So coming up in that vein, obviously we've got David Holt any second now.
Yep.
Tomorrow I'm recording an interview with Paul Franklin, who is the creative director at Double Negative, which is a visual effects company in London. He's a huge Space 1999 fan. Very good friend of Samira Ahmed's, and has worked on many fantastic feature films that you will have watched, I'm sure.
Great.
More details to follow there. And the following day, I'm recording that interview with Chris Bowden, who was the producer of Lavender Castle, funnily enough.
well done,
Bit of a theme
Jane.
going here, but he's doing loads of other stuff too, and he's a long time Anderson fan.
Yeah.
And was very close with Dad, actually. They got on really, really well. I think except for one bust-up once. I'll try and find out about that.
Great.
So, yes, and many more interviews to follow. And obviously we've got Pod 100 coming up.
Yes.
And we were talking about doing something special for that. I haven't yet approached Chris Randomiser Dale about that.
Right.
But hopefully he'll be up for doing it.
All right.
And, we'll bring you something special then.
Okay. Look forward to
Or
it.
not.
Yeah, I mean, it's all up in the air at the moment, isn't it? If not,
Yes.
we'll just have a fine old time together and celebrate our 100th podcast with our lovely listeners, won't we?
Can open some bubbly.
Yes.
I've got some Coke Zero in the kitchen.
Have you?
Yeah.
God, that's rationed round my way. That
Oh,
and
really?
flour,
No,
you haven't seen it for weeks.
I've got a 2-litre bottle of it. So
God, you haven't got any toilet roll you could send over, have you?
Are you desperate? I could probably find some. Yeah, anyway, let's do this bartering after
Yes.
the podcast recording.
Yes.
One thing that is not up in the air is an interview with David Holt.
Mm-hmm.
David Holt is a voice artist who's been doing professional voice artistry
Yeah.
for many, many years. And I think, again, through Chris Bowden, who I'm talking to in a couple of days' time, was introduced to Dad for Lavender Castle. So we talk about David's love of Anderson shows and his sometimes vague memories of those shows.
Right.
Then how he came to work on Lavender Castle. And this is part 1 of 2 of my chat with David. Here we go.
Well, hello, my name is David Holt. I'm an actor and, more to the point, principally a voiceover artist, voice actor, whatever you want to call me. I've had a long and interesting career, one of the highlights of which was working with the legend who is Gerry Anderson. And
You stuck up.
And Gerry, well, I had the absolute privilege and honour to work with him on the series, which was made in the 90s, called Lavender Castle.
Yeah, late 90s.
Late 90s with Gerry. That's my connection to the whole Gerry Anderson universe, really.
Well, hopefully there's a broader connection too in terms of stuff you watched as a kid. But
Absolutely.
in terms of the career, that's where that sits. There's my dog exiting the cat flap. Listeners are used to that, David. That's an everyday occurrence.
I'll do her voice if you like.
That's the boy dog. He's
right, okay.
13. He's just gone deaf.
Okay.
He's very shouty. So if you think about that, we can have a dog voice at the end. How did our paths cross recently? I mean, I'm looking quizzically at you. I know how they cross, but just out of interest, in case listeners want to know.
Well, yes, it was interesting because I was introduced to you rather briefly and hurriedly, but at least we made the connection at the Manchester conference, which is called Manimation, which is basically a sort of one-day gathering of all, professional people who are in the animation world, principally from the north and northwest of England. And there is obviously a big thriving community up there. Lots of production going on with the BBC and ITV, etc., and independent production houses. And yes, there's a big gathering once a year called Manimation, and that's where we met.
Yeah, introduced by Chris Bowden, who was producer on Lavender Castle. Well, we'll get to that in due course.
Sure.
So I did prep by asking you if you actually did watch any Anderson stuff when you were a kid, and thankfully you said yes. So that's a big help. So to give us some context of your childhood viewing habits before we get into career and Lavender Castle stuff later on, David, do you remember an early or your earliest Anderson viewing experiences, what show it might have been?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fair to say they had a big influence on me in my childhood because I was a bit of a telly addict. And in those days, I was born in the early 60s. So although I'm too young to have remembered the earlier shows that your father did, along came Stingray and along came Thunderbirds and Fireball XL5 and Joe 90 and the Secret Service. And all of these shows really struck a chord with me. And I think possibly the one which had most resonance to me as a boy, I would say, was Thunderbirds. I loved them all. Thunderbirds perhaps was the top of an extremely prestigious mountain. I was a huge fan as a boy and I loved them. I mean, even when we had a black and white television, they were still wonderful. Eventually we got to colour telly. I guess by then I was watching repeats. I don't know, probably. But certainly as a young boy who loved messing about with voices, loved films, loved big machines, which I still do, they ticked all the boxes for me. Absolutely, memorable and pivotal, really, I would say, in my life.
There's some great sound bites in there, the top of a prestigious mountain of creative works. Yeah. So then growing up around the time Thunder was out, so you would have been in your short shorts.
Oh, yes.
At that age, watching those. I've often neglected to ask people what it was like in terms of other kids, your friends. Like, was there a sense of everybody was into Thunderbirds at the time? Or were you a bit of a loner?
No, I wasn't a loner. I mean, I think it's fair to say that boys particularly loved the shows. We young boys, impressionable young boys with Meccano sets and Lego sets. I was a Meccano boy, by the way. So I think perhaps they appealed to boys with all the machinery and everything and the exciting special effects and all that. And we talked about them a lot at school and with our peer groups of friends. But it was event television for me. I mean, I made an appointment to watch these shows to my mother's annoyance because she just wanted to get round with the Hoover. And we were just my brother and I occupying the living room floor watching, enwrapped with watching Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet or whatever. Oh, I forgot to mention Captain Scarlet. Yes, of course, he was important as well. So, yeah. Also, the other thing, Jamie, is that there were only, well, in those days, 3 television channels. So you didn't have a great deal of choice, really. And children's television chopped off at 6 o'clock when the news came on in the weekday evenings. And it was limited. There was a limited amount of TV. I suppose Saturday mornings were that, which is, I think, when I watched most of the Anderson oeuvre. So there wasn't a huge amount of choice in a way, or viewing opportunity for children's television. So it was really special when one of your father's shows came on TV. It meant a huge amount to me and was an appointment to view.
So, and would you find yourself kind of recreating stuff with the models? There was always an aspect of toys come to life. Were you one of those kids that had a whole bunch of toys, and what were you doing with them? Were you playing along real time? You recreate the stuff you've seen with your friends the next day?
Yeah, I suppose so. I used to, I never had many Thunderbirds or, related Anderson show toys.
Oh.
No, which was a great shame. I was obsessed with Thunderbird 2, and I always wanted that toy. So if other friends of mine had them, I was a jealous little bugger. I really wanted it. No, and all the little, models of the various applications and extras that went inside Thunderbird 2. I wanted them all. I won't say, I'm not sure we sort of went prancing around pretending to be Brains or whoever, but I used to love impersonating the voices. That I think that's in some ways where perhaps the seed of my later career began. Possibly, I don't know. We would always talk about the shows and compare notes really the next day. Yeah. Sometimes watch with friends, but not very often. I think mostly with my brother or on my own.
Yeah, quite right too. You want to enjoy that special moment.
Absolutely,
and not have other little, snotty gits.
I don't want distractions. I want to concentrate on the program.
So you are one of a select group of people who were able to grow up with the Super Mario Nation series and with them evolving. So I guess the early days you would have been Stingray and Thunderbirds, and then you mentioned Captain Scarlet.
Yes.
Was that a noticeable shift for you in the style of the marionettes, from the large heads to the human proportions, from kind of bright and always save the day and nobody dies really? Well, nobody is obviously dying in Thunderbirds, through to Scarlet when you've got deceased puppets covered in blood, face down in a river. It's quite a contrast, but good for you aging up. What was your sense of the difference between those two at the time?
I suppose so. I'm trying to think. It's a long time ago, Jamie, so bear with me. But the memories take a bit of dredging. But I certainly do sense that there was a progression in the style or the look of the shows, the style of the puppets, the style of possibly, I wasn't aware of it in the script, but obviously as I got older, it's nice that there was, a slightly advancing element to the shows. And I think, when was Joe 90? Because that
post Scarlet, so 1968 would have been Joe 90,
and also Secret Service as well.
You're one of the very few that mentioned that, because its broadcast was so limited. It was only in a couple of regions.
That's right.
You do remember that? Do you remember thinking, this is very weird?
Yeah, absolutely. Secret Service. Now, come along, Matthew. We must hurry. With Stanley Unwin, wasn't it? Whom is this weird sort of music hall turn of a man who used to appear on variety shows talking gobbledygook. And then they pivoted a show around him, and the models, even the puppet actually looked like him. But again, that was a progression, because the head, they were more human proportions, weren't they, in those later shows, the puppets? So there, absolutely. Joe 90, Captain Scarlet, Secret Service, very memorable for me. Those later shows.
And did you have a sense as a kid that these were all from the same stable, or were they just a bunch of shows?
No, definitely had to. When I saw your father's name and those big letters ITC on the, coming up, it's very exciting. Do you know what? It was actually part of the whole presentation of the programs, which made it an event. It seemed really important because it had those letters at the front of it. ITC.
And do you remember then the Century 21 arrow, the blue background with the squealing strings as this sort of thing pierces through? Yeah,
of course. And then, I don't know if there were were the pre-title little short scenes before the actual titles came up?
So Thunderbirds had a kind of this episode montage.
Yes, with that very exciting music.
Yes, with the super rapid drum beats.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
it.
Yeah, that I can't tell you how exciting that was, and I think that has sort of had an effect on all my, how I view a lot of film, particularly and TV, is that an exciting sort of little potted episode of it, or imagining what's coming up, but showing the excitement of that, and then into the title sequence, and then into the episode is just made me very, yes, the carpet was rarely dry in my in our living room.
I won't ask whether that was drool or pee, but absolutely. Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. It definitely builds on the excitement. I mean, there are factions of fandom who don't like the fact that elements of the story are given away up front, but I think, to me, it's like, this is tantalizing. I want to see more of that. How does that happen?
Yeah.
How are they going to get out of this?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you watch a James Bond film, and I'm a big James Bond fan, they always have a whole scene before the titles, before the big show off title sequence and song. I mean, the one in in Spectre, the film Spectre, the pre-title scene in Spectre lasted 16 minutes.
Yeah.
So you've got almost a whole film before the film began. Anyway, but what I'm saying is that miniature version of that, I loved it in Thunderbirds particularly.
Yeah, it was a very cool feature. It
Yeah.
feels very Anderson-esque. Did you, as the puppets became more human and then eventually became humans for UFO in Space 1999, did you transition to that as well?
Sadly, I didn't. No, it's interesting. I did see the odd episode, but I don't know why, Jamie. For me, suddenly and I know your father felt, or I've read that, he really wanted to direct live action.
He did.
And well, he did, of course, in the end. But that was what he wanted to do sort of earlier on, really. And but he was so damn good at these amazing shows that, one followed another. So, but no, I didn't make that transition. And I know friends of mine certainly did. And they're, big fans of the live action shows. I didn't. I don't know why particularly.
Just lose some magic for you.
Maybe that was it. Because they looked very along similar lines, didn't they? The design and sets and everything were very futuristic and very imaginative, and the costumes and everything. And
same people, same crews.
Yes. And even some of the same actors. Ed Bishop was in Space 1999, wasn't he? And
Ed was in UFO, but yes. I mean,
UFO, sorry.
Yeah, they were definitely carried over. Ed Bishop is one of those people who had the most fantastic voice.
Yes.
There was something amazing. And that thing of fantastic voices runs through almost every Anderson show, I would say, that the voices are so carefully selected and you can so instantly recall them. When I find a lot of more contemporary animation, a lot of the voice styles and the accents often run together quite a lot, and they're much more difficult. They're much less evocative. Yeah. So, I mean, for you, are there any particular voices from that era that really stand out aside from Ed Bishop? I mean, you can include Ed as well. Yeah, well, of course. I mean, the nice thing is that some of these people I did get to work with later, when eventually, certainly in my radio career, but people like Shane Rimmer and Ed Bishop. I've never yet worked with the legendary David Graham. And he's still going.
He's still going. He's Peppa Pig's father and, a couple of other characters still in his 90s, which is, I hope I'm begging that would be the case with me. So, I think particularly David's characterizations stuck with me because I loved the Parker voice, but I loved the Brains voice as well, and I could usually pick David out, even though when he was playing a baddie or something like that, it's something I think, I think it's him as well, this clever man. I never knew his name at the time, but I could pick him out. And of course, he worked in, how many series did he work on with your father? I mean, from way back, didn't he? From
Four Feather Falls was his
Four
first.
Feather Falls, yeah.
Supercar. He did a few. He did 5XL5. He did a few voices in Stingray.
Yeah.
He did Thunderbirds, and he did crop up occasionally after that as well in the later Super Nation series too.
Yeah. So I guess it was perhaps those David Graham voices that I liked particularly. Shane Rimmer, Ed Bishop, that they had very distinctive voices. Oh yeah, and Ed Bishop and I, he's no longer with us, but we were with the same voiceover agent.
Oh, really?
Yes. Yeah. Back in the 90s. So I did work with him on a few occasions. Yeah, and in radio dramas.
And what was Ed like?
Ed was interesting. I seem to remember him wearing a very nice sort of Homburg hat. He gave me some good advice. He said, whenever you're in a voiceover recording for a commercial, he said, never, ever criticize the commercial, because he made that mistake once. And they didn't show the commercial because they creative people from the agency took on board his criticism of this particular advert and they pulled it. So he said, and this was British Airways or something like that. It was a big one, And he said, I talked myself out of a job. So he said, always tell them it's the best film you've ever seen. It's the most fantastic music. He said, just make sure they know that. So that was his advice to me.
An excellent tip from a real pro.
That's it.
Awesome. So, David, from sitting in front of the telly mimicking David Graham's voices to becoming a professional voice, nice, thank you, to becoming a professional voice artist, how did that go? How does one go from being a kiddie loving Thunderbirds to a man standing behind a microphone and getting paid for it?
Well, in my case, I left school at... How long have you got? I left school at 16. I went to work on farms, and I did that for 10 years. So I was a tractor driver, amongst other things. But it was sort of my love of big machinery that drew me in that direction.
Of course.
But in my spare time, I started doing things like amateur theatre and hospital radio as well, because I loved playing around with voices. And my closest friend at school, secondary school, whose name is Ian Skelly, he started to do voluntary work at a local hospital radio service. And I used to tag along with him, and I got involved, and we started recording silly sketches and things like that, using my stupid voice and our ridiculous sense of humor. And that evolved. So I suppose in my late teens, I did go to college. I did study for a couple of years, study agriculture. But then I started doing all this amateur stuff, and it took over really. And then I really decided that I ought to give it a go, really. I became very ambitious. And so on leaving agricultural college, I did so, having made the decision I wanted to be an actor. So that then took a long time to evolve. But Ian Skelly helped me to put together a demo tape of the voices I could do and the silly impersonations and what have you. And I actually took some nerve, I think, but I started sending it around to local radio stations and actually picked up a bit of work doing commercials, voices for commercials. A lot happened in between. I mean, I spent quite a long time doing nothing or signing on the dole, and I did casual work, and I worked in a factory for a little while. I worked on, I went to Pontins holiday camps for a season and was an entertainer. I did some work in working men's clubs. I did an awful lot, really, scrabbling around in the early days. But I then started to pick up a little bit of work doing voiceovers for local radio ads. I was never very good at doing the tiles sort of voiceovers, but 2 for the price of 1 this week. That sort of thing didn't suit my voice, but the silly characters did. And that's where I started picking up work. Also, I then started applying to go to drama school because I thought, well, I better, get some proper training if I'm serious about this as a career. But that took a long, long time, and I only after 4 years was I accepted into a drama school at Birmingham, and then I studied for 3 years there. But by that point, I was already earning a little bit of a living doing the voiceover work, and then I won't say I concentrated on voice work, but it seemed to be what suited me best, and it seemed to be where my career went, because I started doing radio drama for the BBC. They had studios in Birmingham at the time, and were doing a lot of radio drama, as well as The Archers, which was recorded there as well. So I did, even before I left drama school, I was working. Afterwards, I spent a year in Birmingham jobbing around, doing the same stuff. Then I got my big break, which was I was offered a contract as a full-time radio actor at the BBC for 1 year in 1992. And that helped me to move to London.
Yeah.
And
that BBC Rep?
Yes, the BBC Radio, they called it the Radio Rep or the Radio Drama Company. So that was a massive break for me. So in a way, that led me to the early stages of my career. So that was, it's a long time ago.
Amazing. That's quite a circuitous route, though, via tractors.
Very, very circuitous route, and absolutely. I still enjoy my allotment. I've got an allotment, so I do a bit of digging, and I've got 1 or 2 little toys that I use down there. So I'm still a bit of a son of the soil.
Excellent. Oh, I've got a tractor here. So
good, excellent. What sort?
It's just a little Kubota.
Yeah, they're good.
B6000, just a little tiny one.
Oh, lovely. Yes.
It does the job. Anyway, this is not the agriculture podcast.
Sorry, I put my anorak away.
There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Yeah.
How David, he was lovely, yes. He emailed me afterwards and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You asked me questions and I gabbled on forever." And
no, that's what we want.
And I was like, "No, that's exactly you did right."
That's the point.
So
let's ask more of you.
There was very little of me in there. It was mostly David, and hopefully you enjoyed that. Part 2 next week, when we'll talk about his thoughts on Lavender Castle and all that sort of stuff. And
great.
It's just a nice chat.
Yeah, and Lavender Castle is such a sweet show, isn't it? And so I suspect one of the last or few remaining properties that obviously don't. Where does that lie? Where does the ownership of Lavender Castle lie then? Or is that just
it's very complicated, which is why it's taking so long for us to unpick it. But I am working on another DVD release. It's just not going to happen anytime soon because of the parties involved. But one day, fingers crossed,
absolutely.
maybe. Now I've discovered a copy of a treatment for a Lavender Castle movie.
Oh, okay.
Which was proposed at one point. So at some point, I might dig that out.
Yes.
And possibly we could do a video on it for Anderson Insiders.
Yes.
But we'll certainly give you an overview here on the podcast if I can rediscover it.
That's right.
I've seen it recently, so I've just got to find it. As you can see, Richard, in your camera view of me, I'm surrounded by piles of boxes where I've been going through things.
I've seen it recently.
Yeah, there's a huge amount of stuff. Anyway, more to be found in due course. In fact, one of those things is something that may be the thing that we talk about for Pod 100, isn't it?
So, great, yes, exactly.
Anyway, thank you very much, David Holt.
Yep.
More of him next week, followed by other people in the following weeks.
Yes, good.
Because that's how this thing goes.
That's right.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us in terms of Podsteron messages, Richard, or should we just go straight into some randomizer stuff?
Yeah, no, I've got some messages over on Facebook. Duncan Wilson, for example, I'm sorry to bring it up again, but he's been watching Space Precinct. He says, I saw Jerome Willis as Mycroft Holmes in a Sherlock Holmes series from the 90s, starring Christopher Lee. He's also, of course, brilliant as Podley. His body language really sells the character. I think, he says, and he actually does say this, Podley, Orin and Romek managed to transcend beyond the prosthetics and become real characters. Well, that's very kind of you, Duncan. Job done, I'd say. Also, Hannah got in touch. She emailed us, podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk. How are you? She says, I hope you're all well. I enjoy listening to the podcasts. They're great fun. My favourite parts of the interviews, especially from those who actually worked with Gerry. Yeah, I think they're my favourite as well, Hannah.
Like today's.
Yeah. Mostly, she says, I've been keeping myself to myself while listening to the podcast and other Anderson videos, as if on board Thunderbird 5. Yes, I think we all feel a bit like that. But since sharing something on Fab Live, I think I should introduce myself and how I got into Gerry Anderson's work. I've loved Thunderbirds since I was a kid, but I can't remember whether it was the 90s or the noughties, or which was the first episode I watched. My granddad recorded some episodes for me, and I would watch them whenever they were on TV. My fascination with the show grew as the time went on. I guess I was even lucky enough to have my own Tracy Island set. But then she says, I suddenly stopped watching Thunderbirds one day, and unfortunately, I no longer have any of the toys or magazines. I guess I was a bit like Gerry myself, not very nostalgic, but I never forgot about it. And around 10 years later, I heard about the new Thunderbirds series being made, and I thought I'd check it out. Watching the episodes brought back wonderful memories, and I decided to have a look back at the original series. I love it more than ever. I now enjoy Stingray and Captain Scarlet, and I'm still planning to check out the others. I don't use Facebook or Twitter, but I'm always looking forward to listening to the next podcast and seeing other videos from the website. That's from Hannah, who says, keep up the great work. Well, that's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
Going back
exactly the sort of stuff we love to hear about, isn't it?
Yeah. Revisiting stuff you used to watch years ago and finding it still stands up today. It's lovely.
Yeah. And discovering new stuff that's old or new.
Yeah.
Or contemporary.
Yeah.
Any of those things is great.
Well done, Hannah. Thank you for that.
Another way you can discover things that are old and new
is by looking at my spotlight photograph. Oh, no, sorry. No, not that at all.
Well, after you've done that, and after you've gone to worldbackgrounds.mrfootage.com and searched there, you should also listen to Chris Dale's Randomiser, which does have its own podcast. But if you'd like to be up to date and you've already heard the previous 94 randomizers, because it's number of shows minus one, isn't it? Then you should listen to this next bit, because that is Chris Dale's Randomiser, where he randomly watches an episode of Gerry Anderson stuff from the past.
That's it.
So, shall we see what he's got in store for us this week?
Yes, please.
Okay, over to you, Chris Dale.
What's happening, Captain?
Well, I've got a feeling it's pretty important.
Oh no, it's not that important, Captain. We just need somewhere quiet to record this week's instalment of the Randomiser.
My cabin is at your disposal.
Oh, thank you, Captain. That's very kind of you. Because it's another long episode this week. We're heading back over to Space Precinct for The Witness. So welcome back to Space Precinct on the Randomiser, and it certainly feels like it's been quite a while since we've been here. I want to say the last time was Seek and Destroy, which wasn't a very good episode, and unfortunately, this episode is also not without its problems.
Like a veteran.
I was talking to Morgan.
Officer Romex got a really good feel for the territory, Officer Warren.
And we have this unusual setup here where for some reason Orin and Romex's partnership has come to a temporary halt.
For once I get to tell you what to do and you have to listen.
I'm sorry, did you say something?
We got a report of a purse snatching outside the Gilmore bar.
Orin has been consigned to desk duty and Romex has been partnered with a brand new officer. This is Officer Morgan.
Gorin.
And I believe we've mentioned this before. When shows suddenly bring in a new, hugely important character for one episode only, and they turn out to be a bad one.
Gilmore this.
Space Precinct did that with the introduction of Officer Carson. It just so happened that the episode he was introduced in, there was a traitor on the station, and he wasn't it.
Already.
But, this does not do that.
Where the hell do you think you're going? Get back inside.
I'm sorry, I've just spoiled everything with this, but to be honest, it's not that,
And you guys, against the wall.
that difficult to notice that he's clearly a villain.
It's just like a family reunion here.
Yeah, we got all the extras. There's a ponytail man and purple hair man and
On your feet, hands.
man with lime green tattoos over his eyebrows.
Little lady got separated from her purse a few.
These poor extras. Just some terrible hairdos and wigs on these guys. Anyway, Romek and Morgan have come to find this lady's purse, but the guy who took it has already helped himself to its contents and has slipped out of the bar. Off down the street.
You guys don't seem to be very cooperative.
And this bar is in the Gilmore district of Demeter City, which is a rather crowded, I think they said it's a sort of slum area, so our thief is stopped off at the soup kitchen. Meanwhile...
Have another.
Thanks, Fredo.
It's time for a meal at Fredo's place.
Steve?
Let you out, Haldane.
Yep, so we've got Brogan and Sally.
Truth hurts, Haldane.
Haldane and Castle, and took on her own as always.
The ground
grown-ups.
Of course you do, but they don't have exams this week.
Come on, Estes. I can be a mum tonight. I'll tuck you in.
Okay. Good night.
Good night, sweetheart.
And this is a rare episode for Space Precinct to actually focus on Sergeant Fredo, who was one of the least used regular characters on the show, so it's nice to see him get a bit of focus for once.
You have to have a baby of your own.
Oh, sly glance over at Haldane. He's clearly been thinking about that already.
Well, I think it's about time for the slam ball game. Fredo, why don't you turn on the screen?
All right, the Stingrays.
In fact, I believe in the original script that was going to be the Stingrays were going to be playing against the Fireballs. Anyway, this
and they still do.
So we're in the Fredo family apartment, and again with Space Precinct, it is one of the show's biggest weaknesses. Unfortunately, we have this alien race, but here we are in their home, and there's nothing different than you'd find in the home of an ordinary human family. I mean, you could get all this furniture and home decor from B&Q or any hardware store, really. Anyway, Fredo's little daughter has been put to bed, lights out, and she's seeing something with her third eye, and it looks like our purse snatcher friend being cornered in an alley and stabbed in the back with a sort of laser sword thingy. Front, chest, neck, head again.
Honey, what's the matter?
It's okay, sweetheart. It's just another bad dream.
Mommy and Daddy would never let anything bad happen to you.
Well, something bad's obviously happened to our purse snatcher friend, and this is an episode that kind of directly addresses Space Precinct's sort of the oddness of pitching Space Precinct as a family show, because there is a lot of violence in it, but they're also expecting the kids to watch.
Did you hear that?
Hear what?
Come on.
Oh, our friend Officer Morgan has heard a dead body all the way around the corner.
Police!
But he's being picked by this guy who's just leapt over the fence.
Forget it, it'll be long gone.
Is he dead?
He's about a foot away at most. Forget it. Don't worry.
Hey, look, you dropped a watch.
Leave it for forensics. Orin, it's Romek. We got a stiff here.
So presumably the guy picking the corpse is also the murderer. And now we're checking back in on the station. The Tarn memory fit guy is reading Morgan. And here we get the first indication that Morgan is a bad un, because he just sort of glares at the Tarn guy for no real reason.
That our man?
My memory serves me right. Yes, sir.
Well, then we owe your memory a big vote of thanks. You just saved us a lot of time. Romek.
Oh, reliable Officer Morgan, you're just so trustworthy.
Do me a favor, will you? Just call me Brogan.
Yes, sir.
Oh, they're really trying to bring him into the fold as well.
His friends knew him as Danny Cav.
Among other things.
Everybody knew him. Small-time hood, had his hand in everything.
Only with Danny, it usually came up empty.
Same as Johnny Mueller. Two small-time hustlers, both killed with a light lance, both in a week.
What are you waiting for? Go find me some facts.
Podley's eyes looked a bit cross-eyed there.
Okay, partner. Time to round up the usual suspects.
Ooh, will this include Zipload? Because Zipload is always the first one they ever went
Lieutenant, Miss Datch, Demeter News. She's on her way down from Bay 2.
Tell her I don't have time. Tell her... I don't know, tell her
what a wonderful time we had at your place last night.
Morgan, if Slomo gets an ID on that memory fit, you let me know, okay?
Good thing, Brogan.
Oh, it's like he's always been here. Anyway, here comes Iona Datch, and I really like this character.
Where's the lieutenant?
You just missed him.
It's a shame she didn't return after this episode. She's played by Kate Harper, who dubbed and sometimes played other characters on the show.
Officer Morgan, I have cross-referenced...
And the makeup isn't too complex. It is just basically a bald head with sort of purple and yellow bits painted on. But
Mash Mahog.
It's a very nice, slimy performance that she gives.
Go away, Datch. We're in a hurry.
2 minutes.
And as well, it's nice that it's clear that Brogan and Haldane have a history with her. These two have been annoying each other for a while.
Tell me about your serial killer. You know, it can do a lot of damage if we don't have the full story.
You threatening me, Datch?
Absolutely not. But you know me, Lieutenant. The word no and I have never been what you'd call close friends.
Yeah, well, it's about time you got acquainted.
Yeah, it's rare that Space Precinct would give us an alien character that wasn't like a full animatronic thing. This gives us much more of a chance to see Kate giving a performance that's a bit more immediate. As fantastic as the animatronics are, you do sometimes get the sense that there is a person just off screen holding that little remote to make all the eyes and such move.
Thinking about something else.
Anyway, Estes, that's Fredo and...
Don't be lazy.
Yolanda, is that Fredo's wife's name? Their daughter.
Now watch Daddy.
Practicing for her telekinetics test.
You see, it requires total concentration.
So meanwhile in Demeter City there's another presumably naughty person on the run.
Total concentration.
While Estes has got her third eye open and her parents are criticising her and distracting her. And she's getting some light relief from that by seeing another guy murdered with the light lance.
Fredo, try and stop it!
What is it, sweetheart?
Call the doctor, Fredo.
Maybe you guys were pushing her too hard. So, another dead body, another chance for Rogan and Haldane to...
After all these years, I'm still amazed at what people will do to you.
Oh, this is one of my favourite scenes in the whole show. I didn't realise it was this episode.
Romac.
Yes, Lieutenant.
So, everyone's come to collect the dead body. The police are there, and obviously the paramedics are there. Well, not paramedics, forensics and such. Body taker away, people.
Yeah, we all die sooner or later. Yeah.
And at the police line, amongst the crowd...
We'll try to figure it out. Me? I don't bother.
Is this elderly Creon.
Or it isn't. That's all. He'd be 52 tomorrow. I know because we had the same birthday. You don't forget something like that.
Oh, happy birthday.
I knew him.
Would you mind answering a few questions?
Before I answer any questions, could I have a moment with Lamb? That's his name. Lamb.
So the rest of the extras are a mix of the standard non-animatronic alien head masks and more humans with very terrible pink hair and such.
How was the end, Lamb?
Anyway, they've let this guy through.
Painful? Because no matter how much you suffered, you no good will...
Whoa! I love it.
Compared to the way I'm suffering now.
I love the way they just let this guy through and he looks like an old friend and he just starts hitting him with his stick, asking for his money back.
He gets himself killed, so he doesn't have to pay me and he doesn't have to pay any of his clients.
Wait a minute. This guy was a bookie?
Nah, he was a lousy bookie. But he was my friend.
Oh, I want to follow that guy. Can we just have an episode about that guy? Grumpy, elderly Creon going around hitting dead bodies with his walking stick. He's fantastic.
It's so good to see your face, Sally. We can't seem to get a straight answer out of the doctor.
We have...
Oh gosh, that was a very steep flight of stairs for David Quilter and whoever's playing Yolanda to get down in those masks where they can't see anything.
Okay, they're facing an enormous internal struggle. A part of them can't get away from whatever it is they've just experienced, and a part of them desperately wants to get back to normality.
Anyway, Sally's looking after Fredo's daughter at the hospital, and
That's where I come in. The purpose of post-trauma therapy is to help children like Estes get back on their feet.
I was never clear what Sally's duties at the hospital were. Sometimes she just seems like a receptionist, doing paperwork type things, and other times, like in this episode, she seems properly medically qualified.
Her telekinetics exam's at the end of the week. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, no, I just thought we were pestering her with that silly telekinetics thing for no reason. And this is another area where the animatronics don't quite cover the strength of the emotion that an event like that would need. And it's not that David Quilter and whoever's playing his wife aren't trying. It's just the masks can't achieve that level of realistic expression.
All three with multiple lacerations around the face, neck, and shoulders.
And what does the world of science have to say about this, Officer Carson?
Not a lot, sir.
Yep, Carson's here as well to do. And much like Sally, Carson was just sort of whatever we need him to do, he can do it.
I think we may be dealing with a classic serial killer.
That's another theory.
Because this was back in the days when TV police shows only ever had like one serial killer a season, whereas now it's like every episode of all of those American crime shows, it's just, there's a serial killer. Classic serial killer. We gotta get inside his head.
That's not what I want to hear, Romek.
Nowadays, if you said that, it was like, well, yeah, every police drama is serial killers.
Gotta be found.
I mean, not that I ever watch them, I'm just making sweeping generalizations based on no experience at all. If I'm going to watch a police series, I kind of prefer one with spaceships and lasers and such.
Iona Datch, news at noon.
Look, I'll cut to the chase. You were right. It's not neighborhood wars. We got ourselves a serial killer.
So tell me something I don't know.
We got a suspect.
I'm listening.
I want his face plastered all over the news.
Oh, well, I'd really like to help you, Lieutenant, but I've just gone and gotten acquainted with the word no.
It's not the time.
Oh, even... See, that's a good example. She gave this really smarmy smile at the end of that line that an actor wearing the full animatronic mask just couldn't quite manage.
I'm not sure if you can hear me, Estes, but I think you can. All you have to do is listen and tell me when something sounds good. Now, that's not too tough, is it?
Also, this episode is very, very, very hard to...
It's her favourite.
Look at. Not watch, but look at, because this room that Estes is in, it's like all of the pink paint in the universe was used in this room, and Estes herself she's got pink ribbons in her hair and her dress is purple, her mum's wearing a purple dress with a purple headband. It's just too much pink.
You think about it.
Pink flowers.
Company for a while.
The hospital's designated pink room. And I believe Estes, the little girl, Fredo's daughter, is played by, I want to say, Kieran Shah. Hold on a second, let me check my book, because I do keep a book by the side of my microphone while I'm doing this, just to make sure I don't get anything wrong. Kieran Shah, yeah.
It is one of the most difficult crimes for us to...
Who has done stunt work and such in lots of things, but I most remember him for being Miss Piggy's stunt double in the motorbike sequences in The Great Muppet Caper.
Nobody heard anything, nobody knows anything about it.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
More or less. Only we don't have monkeys in Demeter.
You don't need them. Evil is evil.
Brogan, just got a tip. Somebody spotted Maharg at a soup kitchen near the Gilmore.
Brogan was just beginning to suspect Morgan a little bit there. Gave him a bit of a curious sideways glance. Anyway, the serial killer suspect, Mas Maharg, which is of course Sam Graham spelled backwards. He's heading down to the
Mas Maharg, DCPD. You're on
Gilmore District soup kitchen. Brogan, Haldane, Romek.
Police! Out of the way!
Yeah, they've bungled this and they can't get anywhere near him. So Maharg's run into the bar. Brogan followed him in. Ooh.
Don't even think about it!
But Maharg wasn't counting on good old Morgan, Officer Morgan, who everybody loves.
No, Morgan, stop! Hold it right there, pal!
Where Morgan wasn't doing anything, he was just holding his gun. Maharg was creeping up on him with the laser thingy.
Because that's what separates us from them.
Oh, Brogan's starting to think that maybe old Morgan isn't as trustworthy as he appears. Oh, ow! That image is hurting me. They've come into the bright pink room from a bright green corridor. The colour clashes are just ghastly.
You know, Estes, you might be able to help me out. I think your doll wants to go home. I mean, if I was a doll, this isn't exactly the place that I would want to be. But the problem is that I don't speak doll talk anymore. It's been way too long. And I need someone who does, and that way I'll know what she wants to do. Well, maybe she isn't your doll. Maybe she belongs to some other little girl.
Yes, her name's Bossy Boots, and I brought it back from Topsy-Turvy Land to teach you all a lesson. Oh, we've solved it! Who's the serial killer slashing everybody? It's Torchy, of course.
I thought it might be.
Yeah.
I would like some fizzy chip cookie dough ice cream now.
Ugh.
Of course, honey. You can have as much as you like.
With glitter and sugar and... oh, it's so sickly. Sam Graham is Space Precinct story editor. I just looked that up too.
I'm reminding you that anything you say or think can be recorded and used against you in a court of law.
And Mahag, here in the interrogation room, is another rather interesting looking character, because again, it's not a full animatronic head, but also it's not just a guy with some little bit of makeup on. He's got his ears are sort of he's got a sort of mole-like face, and his ears are kind of almost sealed up, except for these little blue bits in the middle, and he looks very, very grumpy.
Okay, what's he thinking?
Thank you for K-Peg soup. Heats right up in the pack.
What the hell is that?
Jingle. I hear it on my way to work all the time.
What does it mean?
Well, it means he's hungry, Lieutenant. Very, very hungry.
But apparently not the killer.
What have you got?
Nothing. Mahag's a psycho, all right, but we can't prove he's the killer.
What about the light lance?
Well, we gotta wait for Carson to get the analysis back, and if that's inconclusive, unless a witness shows up, we're gonna have to let him walk.
We'll orbit that moon when we get to it, Brogan.
Because we're in space, you remember?
Do something you haven't done in a while. Get home at a reasonable hour.
Oh, do I have to? Oh, are the kids out? Please say the kids are out.
You're home early.
I can leave if you want.
No, it's just that I'm not ready.
Look ready to me. I miss them, but I'm glad the kids are away tonight.
Yes! Yes! Haha. Oh, so a nice, cozy, candlelit dinner for Brogan and his wife.
Just to talk about our nightmares today.
That's nice.
Great, how was she?
Good. Her dreams are so violent. She doesn't just see somebody murdered. I mean, she sees the lance. She sees the wound. She even described a victim's watch and...
honey, this is not getting me in the mood here.
How the hell would Estes know that?
And again, I think I've mentioned before that it's...
The only thing I can think of is that she's been picking up the killer's thoughts.
Always rather sort of...
seeing through his eyes.
Narratively convenient when one of Brogan's family would conveniently clue him in to the motives of somebody or the potential cause of something. Here, it kind of makes more sense because this is a side effect of Sally's work. Of course, she would be working with Estes because she's a friend of the Fredo family.
No! It's impossible.
What?
She's seen Mahag.
88.
Oren, quick, where's Mahag?
I don't know, Lieutenant. We had to release him a couple of hours ago.
What the hell for?
Carson got the lance analysis back. It didn't match the one that killed the others. We had nothing to hold him on.
Okay, thanks.
So Mahag is being stalked by... Oh, well, you're not going to believe this, but it's our old friend, Morgan. Officer Trustworthy Morgan. And Mahag has retreated to the top of a sort of gantry walkway, which this is actually shot on location on the top of some buildings at Pinewood Studios. So Mahag's pulled out his laser lance.
Drop it!
Morgan's got his gun. Oh.
You know the routine. There's no virtue without temptation. You ever heard that?
Morgan had his own light lance.
There's no virtue without justice.
And he was so trustworthy.
To learn, there are consequences for your actions.
And as much as I'm criticising the inclusion of the Morgan character, I think the actor who's playing him is doing a really good job.
You have the right to remain silent.
Todd Boyce, yeah, he's doing a really good job with this because it is, he's playing it just slightly over the top, but it is kind of written as slightly over the top, so it really fits. I kind of wish they'd included this character in just a couple more episodes before this, then his inclusion and reveal wouldn't be so jarring.
You're doing a great job, Sally.
Yeah, well, it's not good enough. I'll see you guys.
He rather reminds me of a Star Trek Deep Space Nine character, Michael Eddington, who was around for like 10 episodes before being revealed as like a traitor. And the idea for the character was that he was as professional as the good guys, but he he didn't necessarily have to be a good person. He was very by the book, and that's what they could have had with Morgan.
Girl under armed guard lies in a coma at Demeter City Hospital.
Equally, we have Iona Datch, who again could have returned in multiple episodes. I don't remember Space Precinct having too many reporter characters. Maybe it wouldn't have been cost effective enough to bring her back unless she was going to be seen multiple times, but I really wish they had.
Have a minute, Captain?
No, but come in anyway.
I was wondering, did you have a chance to look over the report about Mahog's death?
Yeah.
I know so like it when
Listen, I know there's not a lot we can do about things, son.
two of the alien regulars have a scene just talking to each other, no human actors. It's
Took, but we're never really safe, are we? I mean, I just watch the news.
Yeah, okay.
especially if they're working with Jerome Willis, because it's just...
For reception, we've got a protective custody.
He's so good in this. And David Coulter is, I think, doing really well in this one as well.
Thanks.
I was never clear, though, is that actually David doing the voice of Fredo as well? Because I know it wasn't for Orin, and it wasn't for Took originally, and then it was for Took later on, and it was for Romek, and it wasn't for Beazle. I've never seen anything either way to say who actually does Fredo's voice. I assume it's David.
I want to speak with her. Where is she?
I had her wait in the coffee room.
So Orin's doing all the admin stuff that would normally fall to Fredo this week. He's even manning that little desk at the front.
Is there something wrong with you? How could you put a little girl in jeopardy like that?
What are you talking about? I reported a story from a tip you gave me.
I never said anything about a Tarn girl.
Doesn't mean she doesn't have anything to do with the story. You're not my only source.
That's what I like about you, Datch. You make up your own rules.
No, Brogan. The rules have been around for light years. They're called freedom of the press.
Oh, right. You don't know the whole story. We don't even know if the little girl is a witness.
Patrick Brogan, married, 2 children. You haven't missed a house payment in over 5 years, but you've been late twice, though. Your credit rating is okay. Most of your neighbors think you keep pretty strange hours, but only one thinks it's because you're having an affair.
Where the hell did you get that information?
I'm a journalist.
She runs patrickbrogan.com. It's your fans.
I've got a file on every cop in this case. Have a look at this.
Something she wants to bring to his attention.
It probably is just a coincidence. I don't know for sure yet. You see, I try not to run stories till I've double-checked the facts. I want you to know that. And I try to apologize when I make a mistake. Sorry about the little girl.
If I didn't know any better, I'd almost think you had a conscience.
I'll take that as a compliment.
Don't.
Again, I wish that character had come back.
You know ice cream you could possibly want.
Oh, don't. That's probably what put her in here in the first place.
How you doing, sweetheart?
She's doing just great.
So Estes has now been moved up to the station.
But there will be a guard on the door 26 hours a day. First shift will be here any moment.
Thank you, Fred.
Oh, who will we get to pull that first shift? What officer do we trust more than any other round here at the moment to do that job?
Reporting for duty, Sergeant.
I suppose Morgan will do.
I'm just going down to the coffee room. Can I bring you anything?
No thanks, I'm fine.
Death, kill, murder. I mean, I'm fine. Oh, Sally. All you had to do was look after one little girl, and you've left her at the mercy of Officer... well... Officer Kill, Death, Murder. Oh, he's putting on the black gloves. Time to murder a little girl.
A year before Morgan transferred here, there were 5 murders in this precinct. All small-time hoods. Killer never apprehended. However, Morgan received a commendation for bravery.
4 more Lance murders in his training precinct. All small-time hoods. Killer never found. Morgan singled out again.
So for an episode with quite a high body count...
Not a coincidence.
It's a very odd angle to...
Duty outside the medical room.
...have this, so much of this revolving around a little girl who we're now going to have to kill to keep her quiet.
You killed all those people, didn't you?
They weren't people.
They were just...
And it's never quite explained why Estes was...
They're waste.
I mean, presumably she has some link with Morgan, despite having never met him. Well, I can forgive that because it is a nice idea that a Tarn child could pick up on really intense crimes like that. Oh, so Sally is a hostage.
What happens now, Morgan?
Whatever's necessary, sir.
I want you to let her go.
I don't think that's necessary.
And again, Boyce and Nancy Paul and Ted Shackelford are all doing really well here.
How long have you been a cop, Brogan?
Let her go.
20 years?
I want you to do it now.
I only been a cop for 3, and I already know much more than you'll ever know. If you want to get rid of the crime, get rid of the criminals!
He's gone full berserk now.
The criminals at least know what they're doing out there. They just don't care. Now, cops like you act like you care, but you just don't do anything to stop it. And that's worse!
I do find it hard to believe that Morgan could ever get this far with this kind of attitude. He's going to pull the trigger, but luckily Estes is there to pull the gun away.
Hands behind your head! Now, turn around! Face the wall!
Odd too, considering that she witnessed like 3 murders, but didn't ever see the killer's face.
It's all right, sweetheart. It's all right. It's all over.
Considering that she, according to Sally, she could describe all the incidents in minute detail, but she never saw that the killer was human. Anyway, Morgan's been taken away, Estes is fine, and Brogan's got Sally back. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Fredo's taking some time off to be with his daughter. I'm acting sergeant.
Hooray!
Really?
Where are you going?
On patrol. Somebody has to protect the streets.
What about me?
Come on, partner, let's go.
I knew you were just kidding me.
That's it, Oren and Romek back together as they should be.
Castle. What are you doing tonight?
And I like that Oren got to be sergeant for a day.
I was pretty scared, but I really concentrated hard, just like you said. And I got an A.
We're proud of you, sweetheart. But we'd be proud of you no matter what score you got.
Oh, yeah. Parents say that, but if she'd come in with an F, oh, she would not have heard the end of it.
Let's open your present.
Present time. Oh, pink wrapping paper. Oh, gosh.
Ta-da! Motionary, too.
Oh, no.
Remember that thing that induced nightmares and murderous visions? We've got the next version of that.
Whenever you're ready.
Ah.
Hi. Hi.
Hey, guys. Come on in.
I brought something for you.
Right on.
This is your house. I've been here before.
There you go.
Wow. Fizzy chip cookie dough.
That's right. As much as you can eat, there's more in Mom's freezer. I think you'll need a spoon.
2 days later, Estes was back in intensive care, suffering from extreme ice cream poisoning.
Is it as good as it looks?
Great.
Great.
And yes, the tub is blue and pink. Anyway, that was the pinkness, the witness, and oh yeah, there's the germ of an idea here that is not really appropriate for a family series like this, so it's one of the more schizophrenic episodes of the show. I do really like the actor playing Morgan, despite the fact that the character is so obviously a villain right from the first moment, so it's kind of a difficult one to judge. It's not one of the worst, it certainly isn't one of the better episodes from the second half of the run. Given another rewrite, something that took out a lot of the pinkness, we might possibly have something that stood among the greats, but sadly the witness can only struggle for sort of average at best, really.
Isn't that funny that we had Space Precinct after, I mean, very few mentions in this particular episode about Space Precinct, but funny that it should turn up now.
Yes, Witness. I remember that one quite distinctly. That was, I think, our last episode that we filmed before our Christmas break in 1994, that would be.
And did you have a Christmas party that year?
A Christmas party, yes, we did, yeah. At the studios, I think. And then we had 2 weeks off. We were all sacked, effectively, over the 2-week break. so they didn't have to pay us holiday pay, and then we were re-employed in January 1995 to finish the series.
Nice.
Now, I've got a few things. I went to my book, actually, Jamie, because I've forgotten an awful lot of things. But luckily, I wrote it all down a couple of years ago, so that's quite handy. Kieran Shah plays, I think it's Estes, the daughter. Fredo's daughter, who witnesses with her third eye the murder, was played by an actor, funnily enough, called Kieran Shah, who also doubled for Christopher Reeve in the Superman movies. He was only, I think, 4'2".
Right.
So if ever they needed like a shot of Superman, stopping a train or lifting up something like a car, they would film it at a distance with Kieran Shah in the Superman costume with a car to scale or a train to scale, so it would look like Christopher Reeve was stopping the train.
Amazing.
Clever stuff.
I had no idea of that.
Yeah. I do remember him having a cigarette as well, and David Quilter admonishing him for smoking because he said it would stunt his growth, which I thought was in rather poor taste.
Oh,
yeah,
ouch.
I know.
Yeah, very poor taste.
That was also around that time that Charlotte, my wife, saw Take That filming their video for Back for Good in the water tank at Pinewood Studios.
Really?
See? Yeah, it's a fab fact in itself.
Amazing.
Yeah. And what else? I think Paul Morris as well, who was our second AD, appears briefly as the murderer's first victim. Johnny Mueller, I think he's called, in a little sort of screenshot. And that's our second AD, Paul Morris. Yeah. So I do remember Witness. Quite a good story, based, of course, upon the film with Harrison Ford. And sadly, it sees Orin relegated to the station house to carry out all the paperwork, because Romek gets a new partner.
Oh.
But, I wasn't poor.
That's rather... well, you still paid, weren't you? So
yes, true enough.
You shouldn't moan too much.
Made for a very easy couple of weeks for me, yeah.
See, so you quite like that, but Chris was not much of a fan of
No,
Witness.
I'm not saying it's a great one. I mean, it has its faults. It's odd to see Fredo's home. It's the first time you see one of the aliens' homes, and it's odd to see the wooden sideboards and the cutlery and crockery. It's just all too strange and human,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I remember it well.
Nice.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh.
Is that my mother ringing you now,
yeah,
saying,
honestly,
hurry up,
just leave us. Well, let the answer phone get it.
She's so persistent.
She's going to probably tell me something really top secret.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's like that. Don't worry. Answer phone will get it in a moment.
Okay, we won't listen in.
No.
Okay, fine. Now, Richard.
Yes?
We almost forgot something very important. Actually, I'm pretending that I remember, but you actually remembered and reminded me before we got to the randomizer, and that is that we forgot to tell our Podsterons about the plot of Peril.
Yeah, oh yes, that's right. I said it last week in Pod 95, and I shall reveal the answer and the best of the answers in Pod 100. It's a relaunching of the plot of Peril. It's whereby I wheel on my plot device and I give you 3 items from the Gerry Anderson universe, and we ask you, dear listeners, to construct a coherent Gerry Anderson-esque sci-fi plot using those elements. So here's a listen to what the plot device gave us last time. Are you ready? Here comes your character. Oh, it's Thunderbird's Tintin.
Oh.
Right. Okay. A location? Yeah. Oh, it's the Big Pit Mine. That's the museum near you, isn't it, Jamie?
That is the Welsh Museum of Coal Mining. How strange that should come up.
Right, there you go. The Big Pit
Museum
in Wales is your location. And finally, then, your household item. Yeah. A garlic press.
Right, is that it? Probably, maybe?
I think maybe we've scraped the bottom of the barrel again, haven't we?
Yeah, I wonder what that noise was, and that smell.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it?
Now I know.
Right.
So thank you for joining us at the bottom of the barrel, Podsterons. We'll be back next week with Pod 97, probably with a new barrel to scrape.
Yeah, I think so, yes. It's the least we could do.
Good. Until then, email us podcast@gerryanderson.co.uk with your questions, thoughts, and admonishments.
Yes, don't forget to subscribe, leave us a rating, and share us with your friends so they can hear us too.
Yeah, and that's it really. Until then, we'll be in your ears next week.
You certainly will.
Bye.
Bye.
Stage 1 complete.
Let's go.
Spectrum is green.
I realise I used the word admonishments because you said that David Quilter admonished
yes.
the actor for smoking.
You're right. That's the word of the week, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's rather like, what was it, a couple of pods ago you used a word that you'd never...
Tome?
Tome? No, tome's quite a common one.
There was something else, wasn't
yes.
there? Thusly.
Thusly. That was it. Maybe we should have a new word of the week. And listeners have to guess what it is, and we'll give them a prize if they...
So what? So you and I agree on one before the recording, we slip it in.
Yeah, just a couple of times, mind. And it must never have been used in a previous podcast. That's the idea.
Well...
Yeah. Well, like admonished, for example. We've never used that before.
They've definitely used admonished in previous podcasts.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then.
And that's not me admonishing you for saying I hadn't.
Well, I should think not. Otherwise, I'd admonish you back.
Okay.
I'd re-admonish you for admonishing me.
Contra-admonish? Anyway, let's stop this.
Let's call the whole
think
thing
of the
off.
word. Well, no, I think we should do the word thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
Next
we'll
time.
discuss it offline.
All right.
Right.
Have a good week till then. Love to the lambs.
Thanks, Dickie. They send it right back.
Lovely.
Bye.
You have been listening to the Gerry Anderson podcast. Wasn't it fun?
You have been listening to an Anderson Entertainment production.